Have you seen this painting before? Yes? No? Well, let me tell you. This is Catherine the Great. Her story is a wild ride of ambition, romance, and political intrigue. She was a woman who navigated a world dominated by men. Her life was filled with the kind of drama that makes for a fantastic story. Shall we dive in? Hi, my name is Nikita. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about historical figures and paintings while I do my makeup. Now, I'm not a historian or a makeup artist, but this is just the way that I found to combine the two things that I love. So if you like history and or you like doing your makeup, I suggest you click that button and subscribe because I post videos every Mondays and Fridays. Let's get into it. We are in the Kingdom of Prussia, in a city called Stettin, which is now known as Szczecin in Poland. But in the past, this city had really strong German ties. In this city lived a royal couple, Christian August of Anhalt-Zerbst and Joanna Elizabeth of Holstein-Gottorp. Little fun fact, Christian was actually considered to be financially disadvantaged or like poor. Huh? And I know it's kind of weird because it's like, how? He was a prince, but I guess even royalty can be broke. Our friend Christian here literally had a 9-to-5. He would clock in and clock out. We respect a hard-working man, baby. No shame in here. So here's the problem. His wife, Joanna, was actually used to living a more luxurious lifestyle. She was used to going to parties and balls every weekend. She was used to having new dresses made every month. She was used to eating like luxurious food, all that good stuff. First of all, like she was not happy about getting married because she was so young, okay? Secondly, when she found out that she's marrying this man that is literally poor, she was not happy at all. She found out that the man that she was going to marry was actually considered to be a humble, down-to-earth man that didn't care about luxury or gossip or anything that she was used to having. He wasn't like the typical man that she was used to being around. And that pissed her off. She did not like that at all. Like for her, in her mind, it was like, I'm young, I'm beautiful, and now I'm stuck with this man who's 3 times my age. And he's poor. You know, so I'm imagining that's how she felt because it's like, girl. And to finish it off, it was said that Christian actually lived in like a very modest gray stone home. Baby, I can imagine she was pissed because now that was gonna be her home. Like she was gonna be living in a modest gray stone home. Ooh, baby, I would have been pissed, okay? Like, Christian, what do you mean I can't get 3 dresses made every week? What are you talking about? You know? I would freak out. Mind you, Joanna wasn't actually rich, but she was like, I guess comfortable rich. With no way of escaping, I mean, Joanna kind of gave up. She was like, okay, I guess I'm stuck with this poor man. The only way that she could think of to get out of this miserable situation was to have sons. Oh yes, sons that could marry and elevate her status. She was thinking. On May 2nd, 1729, Joanna almost died while giving birth to a little girl named Sophie Friederike. She almost died giving birth and she was expecting a son to make it all worth it. And no, she ends up with a girl. It's said that she was so displeased that when Sophie came out and the nurses were like, you know, here's your baby girl, like a beautiful girl. Joanna didn't even want to hold Sophie. Like she did not want to hold her baby. She just left him there. Like she was not happy at all. I was thinking like, what if she had like postpartum depression? Like could that explain what she did? But I'm not a doctor. I'm just a girl. Growing up, it's said that Sophie was smart, charming, and had really great education. She just loved learning in general. She had tutors that came straight from France, like any noble kid, and she was fluent in German and French. Growing up, you could tell that her mother, Joanna, had her own agenda. You see, Joanna was not happy at all. She was, I mean, you would think like, yeah, maybe she was just disappointed she didn't have a boy, but no, this went far. Like She took it and she ran with it. Even while Sophie was already growing up, like, she was still pissed. And she wouldn't hide it. Like, she would make it so obvious. She would call Sophie ugly, worthless, useless. Anytime Sophie would do something, she would go and criticize it. I mean, poor Sophie was walking on eggshells in her own home. And she would say things like, you're never gonna be enough, you're not good enough, stuff like that. And it's just like, that's such a tough start for a little child. Sophie grew up with 3 siblings. She had 2 younger brothers who her mother loved so much because they were boys and they could literally elevate her status. And she also had a little sister. One of her younger brothers, Wilhelm Christian, actually died at the age of 12. From scarlet fever. And that definitely devastated Joanna, her mother. She was devastated. I mean, that was her precious baby boy, you know? Even though Joanna, her mother, had 3 healthy kids and she lived, you know, a pretty comfortable life, not luxurious, but I mean, she was living an okay life. She still wasn't satisfied. I mean, she still regretted marrying her husband Christian. She hated it and she was just always looking for ways to elevate her status. So when Sophie started growing up a bit, Joanna started visiting her well-connected relatives and taking Sophie with her when she was old enough. Joanna had one goal in mind: get Sophie married. One of Sophie's suitors was actually her uncle, George Lewis, who actually asked for her hand in marriage, and Sophie accepted. But her parents, Christian and Joanna, they thought that he was just not a good match, and they just wanted more for their daughter. So that's where the relationship ended. They never got married and they never talked again. She literally almost got married to her uncle. Don't you just love history? Joanna actually had familial connections to the Romanovs of Russia. So Empress Elizabeth of Russia was actually supposed to marry Joanna's older brother, but unfortunately he passed away before they could get married. And Empress Elizabeth's older sister Anna actually ended up being married to Joanna's cousin, Charles Frederick. Fun fact, these two, Anna and Charles Frederick, are actually the parents of Sophie's future husband, Peter. Hold on, let me do my math. Did she marry her cousin?
Hell no, man.
Wait, why am I surprised? Let me just keep going. To further encourage this family relationship, Joanna took Sophie to the Prussian court painter, where she had a portrait painted to be sent as a gift to Empress Elizabeth of Russia. So she took Sophie to the court painter and she was like, oh yes, I need a painting. I need you to paint my daughter. And once you're done, I want you to send this painting to the Empress of Russia. That's a smart move. That's really a smart move. So the painter did his job, he painted Sophie. And then when he was done, he sent the painting to Russia. Fast forward to the early 1740s, Empress Elizabeth of Russia was on the hunt for a suitable bride for her nephew, Grand Duke Peter. Remember we just talked about him? The cousin that she's about to marry? Yeah, that's Grand Duke Peter. Keep up, babe, keep up. So after swiping on so many candidates, she was just there with like a room full of portraits and she was just swiping like, no. Too fat, too skinny, too short, too tall, too poor, ugly, just swiping and swiping and swiping left until she finally swiped right on a portrait. And guess whose portraits it was? Sophie. Remember Sophie's mom sent her portrait ahead of time? I feel like this was such a genius plan. Like this perfectly worked out well. To Empress Elizabeth, Sophie was seen as an appropriate candidate due to her noble lineage and potential to strengthen the ties between Russia and Germany. Elizabeth regarded the House of Holstein with great fondness. The House of Holstein is where Sophie's mom comes from, Joanna. Remember, her name is Joanna Elizabeth of Holstein-Gottorp? Yeah, that's her family house. So Empress Elizabeth of Russia viewed the Holstein family with, with love, with fondness, if you will, which was incredibly advantageous for Sophie and her family. So Joanna, Sophie's mother, finds out about this and, ooh, baby, this is it. She was so happy. Like, she finally did it. After so long of trying to get Sophie married to a good family, trying to elevate her status, she finally did it. Her daughter was going to marry the nephew of the Empress of Russia. What better match? Okay, to Joanna, this sounded like a golden ticket, baby. She had finally hit the jackpot. This is it. This is it. All her dreams have came true. At just 16 years old, Sophie was whisked away to marry the heir to the Russian throne, Grand Duke Peter. His name sounds so like high class, it's so fancy, till you get to know him and then it's just like blah. Ugh. In the summer of 1744, Sophie arrives in St. Petersburg, Russia. This was a significant transition for her because she left her familiar life in Germany to move to a completely new foreign court and have to learn everything from scratch. She was like the new kid in school. Not cute. The first meeting between Sophie and Peter occurred shortly after her arrival. It was a formal introduction, typical of royal marriages around that time. So imagine, Sophie arrives. She arrives to Petersburg, to the palace, and she's really excited. It was said that she was actually really excited to meet Peter because she was like, oh my God, this man is gonna be my husband, And she was learning the culture, she was learning the language, just trying to impress Peter. And so Peter arrives and he's just like, exactly. He literally gives her nothing. She was so excited and he just went and gave her nothing. It's like, oh, you're gonna be my wife. Cool. It said that he kind of viewed her as a friend, not really a wife. Huh? Oh, girl, I can't. So around this time, Sophie actually changed her name to Ekaterina, which we know as Catherine. She changed her name after converting from German Lutheranism to Russian Orthodox Christianity. Isn't that cute? I feel like that is such a cute gesture. Changing your name to your husband's grandma's name. It's kind of like showing admiration, kinda. I don't know. So I'm just gonna start calling her Catherine, as we know her now, like Catherine the Great. I'm gonna start calling her Catherine, and we're gonna leave the name Sophie behind. Don't get confused. Catherine and Peter's marriage took place on August 21st, 1745. It was a grand affair, okay? This marriage lasted 10 whole days. Peter and Catherine's marriage was far from happy, and it remained unconsummated for 7 years. Can you imagine? It was said that Peter was so immature and his preoccupation with his own interest became apparent very early on. He reportedly showed little enthusiasm or any attention, he didn't show any attention towards Sophie. He basically didn't care about her. He didn't care about her as his wife. He just didn't care. It was said that he would also prefer to play with his toy soldiers than to do any of his duties. This poor girl. Can you even imagine? You get married and you're just trying to spend some time with your husband and your husband is over here playing with toy soldiers like a child. Lord. Peter was just a total flop. Throw the whole man away. Expeditiously. Despite the challenges, Sophie was determined to make the best of her situation. She understood the political importance of her marriage, and she was very aware that her position depended on her ability to navigate the complexities of the court and her marriage life. It's not like she could go back home to mommy dearest. No. She was essentially stuck there. Now, Peter, he had multiple affairs, okay? And the most popular one was with a lady called Elizaveta Romanova Vorontsova. I hope I pronounced that well. Unfortunately, Elizaveta did not have a good reputation at court. People at court kept saying that she swore like a soldier, like she was always cussing. She smelled bad. She always squinted her eyes, like she was always like this. I think every time she would talk, she would spit at the same time. So I'm guessing, like, I don't know, that's pretty ugly. I don't know. They were saying that after she suffered from smallpox, she became even uglier because her features were completely disfigured. Her whole face was covered with scars from the smallpox. However, after everything that everyone in the court said about her, Peter still really liked her, and after that, they became lovers. And Catherine over here, she also had affairs, okay? She was not innocent. But then again, it's like, if your husband doesn't want to be with you, do you really have another choice? Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It's even rumored that her children were actually not Peter's kids. Her first son, Paul, was believed to be the son of Catherine's lover, Sergei Salkitov. I think I pronounced that right. Peter, even after this rumor, he still claimed Paul as his heir. He claimed him as his son. Catherine actually had 2 more children. A daughter called Grand Duchess Anna Petronova, who unfortunately died at a very young age. She was actually believed to be the daughter of Count Scandalous Poniatowski. Lastly, Catherine had another son called Alexei Grigorovich Bobrinky. I think I actually said that right. Her son, was speculated to be the son of Grigory Orlov, who was also one of her lovers. Catherine, babe, that's a lot. That's a lot of baby daddies, girl. So time goes by, and we are now in 1762. Empress Elizabeth, Peter's aunt, passed away. She was unfortunately unmarried and she had no children, so when she passed away, she ended up naming Peter as her successor, which meant that Peter was now the Tsar, or like the Emperor of Russia. Huzzah! But unfortunately, Peter's reign would not last long. I mean, it would last as long as a snowflake in summer. Not long at all. After ascending to the throne in January 1762, Peter quickly alienated many of the Russian nobility and military leaders with his really, really irrational and bad decisions, and also his lack of common sense, including withdrawing Russia from the 7 Years' War and favoring Prussian interests over the ones of his own country, which really looked bad because it's like, why are you favoring interests from a different country when you should be taking care of your own country? It just didn't look good, and it just didn't make him look good at all for whatever reasons he had. The things he did just kept making people angry and dissatisfied, and the dissatisfaction spread through the whole country, okay? Everybody was mad, everybody was pissed. I mean, I guess he was messing with some people's business, some people's like livelihood, and it just, when you mess with things like that, people just don't like you anymore. The people started talking, okay? They were talking, they were complaining, and they just weren't happy. And you know what happens when people start talking? Bad things. Now, this is where things get juicy. Catherine was around at that time, and she was just listening to the rumors and the gossip and just the dissatisfaction that was going on and people complaining about Peter every single day. And she was listening to this and she was like, I think I know what to do. And I guess she started thinking, and maybe she would join in on the gossip, and then like people would be like, hey, like, you know, I think you would make a better empress than Peter. And I guess that made her start thinking. She was like, you know, Catherine had spent years cultivating a network of powerful people. She had support among the nobility, the military, and her charm, intelligence, and adaptability had been able to earn her allies in court, positioning her well for a power grab. Catherine the Great's coup against her husband, Peter III, was a calculated and strategic move. It involved careful planning, forming alliances, and taking advantage of political circumstances where Peter wasn't looking good. So whenever Peter would look bad or he would make a bad decision, Catherine would take that opportunity and turn it around for her. She would wait till Peter does something stupid and be like, see, he did this, he did that, and see how it turned out? I would never do that to you, okay? I would make sure that you were okay. I would never, ever do that to you. And so she was just gaining the respect, and she was gaining more people on her side. Welcome back to Planning a Coup with Nikita. When you're planning a coup, you have to take your steps very seriously and make sure that every single step is perfect. Step 1, gain support. In the months leading up to the coup, Catherine worked diligently to secure the support of the military leaders and some of the nobles. She communicated her dissatisfaction with how Peter was doing things. She stressed the need for a more stable and effective leader. People were agreeing with her, so that made it kind of easier because she already had support. She already had people thinking that's true. Peter needs to go. Step 2, make sure the timing is right. Catherine's coup was planned for a time when Peter would be vulnerable. Peter was known for his erratic behavior, so Catherine took her time and waited for the right moment to act. Step 3, establish a base of power. Catherine also established a base of power at the Peter and Paul Fortress in St. Petersburg, where she could rally her supporters and mobilize her troops if necessary. The fortress was a strategic location that allowed her to maintain control during the coup. Very smart woman. Step 4 of planning a coup? Just do it. The coup was executed on the night of June 28, 1762. With the support of her loyal followers, including military officers and members of the nobility, Catherine moved quickly to take control of key locations in St. Petersburg. Finally, Catherine's forces arrested Peter III with no resistance, which means he literally gave up. He didn't even try. He was just here. Take me. He didn't even resist. He didn't put up a fight, nothing. Honestly, if you ask me, this is not even part of the class, it's just my opinion, but I think Peter didn't actually want to be a ruler. Maybe he did want to be a ruler, he wanted to be a king, but he didn't want all the responsibility that came with it, because I just feel he wasn't interested. He just didn't like it. It just wasn't his passion. I feel he just really didn't want to do any of it, but unfortunately, he lasted all of 6 months, I think it was for the better, honestly. Do you see how much it takes to plan a coup? She was really sneaky with this, and it's if you have a wife that's literally trying to take you out of power, what do you need enemies for? It's not fair, but I feel in this case, since we're talking about Peter, I think he deserves it. Especially because of his weird behavior towards her. He could have been nicer. Maybe she wouldn't have taken his kingdom. Just saying. Anyways, class is dismissed. Let's go back to telling the story. Catherine was formally crowned Empress Regent on September 22nd, 1762 at the Assumption Cathedral in Moscow as Catherine II of Russia. The imperial crown of Russia was made for Catherine. It was specifically made for her coronation, and it became the coronation crown for all the other emperors after her. Isn't that so cool? It's such a beautiful crown. Wow, the design, it's just so beautiful. Apparently, it's comprised of 75 pearls, a diamond cross, a ruby, 4,936 Indian diamonds, gold and silver half spheres representing the Eastern and Western Russian empires, and the crown was actually designed by Jérémy Poisy, a Swiss-French court jeweler. But what about Peter? Where's Peter, you might ask? Well, Let me tell you. Initially, Peter was placed under house arrest, but he was later moved to a more isolated location, and he eventually died of unknown circumstances. Some say it might have been an illness, but let's be honest, rumors go around, and what the rumors were saying is that it had everything to do with Catherine. Was it murder? Who knows? But what is true is that Catherine had no intention of reinstating Peter as the emperor. She was determined to keep that throne. Now that she was in charge, no more Peter, Peter is gone. Catherine wasn't just about sitting pretty on the throne. Oh, no. She had big plans. She had a vision. She embraced Enlightenment philosophies, making her court the place to be for intellectuals and artists. Catherine established a state-funded school for women and supported a nationwide educational system. She just wanted everyone to have access to good education, which is like, bravo. She also reorganized Russian laws and administration. She also abolished serfdom, ending capital punishment and torture, and protecting the people. Catherine also expanded Russia's borders, acquiring land in the south and west. This included the portioning of Poland, Lithuania, with Prussia and Austria. But wait, there's more. Under her rule, she took on the Ottoman Empire and made significant gains, including the coveted Crimea. Well, she was actually busy in battle because she was actually a warrior too. Trouble was actually brewing back home. In 1773, Yemelyan Pugachev, a pretender to the throne, led a massive uprising claiming to be Peter III. The rebellion quickly gained steam, with serfs rising against Catherine's reign. The serfs were actually peasants who gave up their freedom and worked for landowners in exchange for protection in tough times. Yemelyan actually advocated for the freedom of the serfs. He helped the lower class, and because of that, they all rallied to his side to support him. Pugachev's rebellion was the largest peasant rebellion in Russian history, and it was only completely quashed when Pugachev was arrested and executed in January 1775. It was chaos, and the gossip was bad. People were saying that Catherine was actually losing her grip. Let's talk about her love life, shall we? Because it was anything but boring. Catherine had a string of romantic affairs, and the most notable one was with the dashing Grigory Potemkin. I don't know, he's kind of ugly to me, but then again, that's just me. Nobody asked me. I know. I'm sure he was better looking in person. Right, Catherine? Yeah. Their passionate relationship wasn't just about romance. No. It was a political power play. Rumors of her escapade were the hot topic of the court gossip. They were like, have you heard the news? And then it'd be like, no, I haven't heard the news. What's going on? Catherine and Grigory Potemkin, they were on a tree and they were kissing. I know, scandalous. Many of her relationships were not only romantic, but also strategic. Catherine often chose partners who would help her expand or advance her political ambitions. It's giving Cleopatra. I love it. During her reign, rumors and gossip about her sexual exploits circulated widely, fueled by her enemies and political rivals. As a woman in power, her sexuality became a focal point for criticism, and this portrayal sometimes overshadowed her significant contributions as a ruler and reformer, which is really sad because she really did a lot. As her life came to a close, Catherine had transformed from a young girl into a legendary ruler. But what exactly would history remember her for? Her scandalous sex life, duh! Come on! Women in history and their achievements have always been severely undermined, no matter how great their achievements might have been. At this point, Catherine was, getting old. And when this happens, normally for like the royal family, When you're starting to get old and you know that you might die soon, it always raises the question, who's gonna come next? And for Catherine, this actually was a bit of a problem. Most of the time, it would automatically go to like the first son. So naturally, when you think about this, Catherine's empire or her rule would have gone next to her eldest son, Paul. But you see, Catherine didn't like this idea at all, okay? And the reason is because her and Paul actually had a really tricky relationship. And when I say tricky, I mean they didn't have the best relationship. Their relationship was actually horrible. And if you ask me on a deeper level, I would say he hated her. Yes, our friend Paul hated his mom, and I know hate is a strong word, which is why I'm using it. It's said that Paul actually hated Catherine because he thought that she did his dad wrong, like she did him dirty, she treated him in a bad way, and she just took power from him, and it wasn't right. He just didn't like that, and he just didn't like her. And it's also said that he didn't like her because he felt like Catherine, his mom, was actually trying to skip him in the line of succession. And it's actually true. Catherine actually thought her son Paul was as useless as his father, Peter. Ah, my eyeliner, help. Let me just finish my eyeliner off the camera and I'll be back. I think I'm just gonna use either this green or this green to just like make it pop a little bit more. And that should be it because I'm wearing bangs anyways and it's just not gonna show. Catherine over here, she thought her son Paul was as useless as his father, Peter. Catherine was actually trying to skip her son Paul completely and actually go ahead and name her grandson, Paul's son, as her heir. That is messed up. Mind you, they already had a pretty rocky relationship before this, so Catherine doing this and Paul figuring it out was actually the nail on the coffin, okay? And it was just not looking good. Paul was actually raised by his Aunt Elizabeth. His Aunt Elizabeth actually took him away from Catherine when he was little, so she didn't really get to raise him and she didn't really get to spend time with him. And even after Elizabeth's death, Catherine didn't really make an effort to try and build any type of relationship with Paul. So to Paul, basically, Catherine was just a bad mom. Sorry about that. Catherine actually started preparing her grandson to take her throne, like to take her place. And she was like training him to do that. But unfortunately, she ended up dying on November 17, 1796, after suffering a stroke. And her son Paul ended up becoming the Emperor of Russia. I know, bummer. She tried so hard so that wouldn't happen, and it ended up happening anyways. Some of my lashes are like green. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but ugh. And that, my friend, is the story of Catherine the Great. Before I end this video, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. So what do you think? Was Catherine a savvy ruler or just a scandalous empress? And do you think she killed Peter? Because I personally don't think she killed Peter, but what do you think? Comment down below. I want to know your thoughts. If you reached till the end of this video, I just wanted to say thank you so much for staying with me and learning about Catherine the Great. On Friday, I will be talking about Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess of Hungary. Her tale is filled with scandal, dark secrets, and a legacy that has haunted people till this day. Trust me, you won't want to miss that one. With that being said, have a good day and be safe. Bye!